Hello guys, welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. There is a message that I want to share with you guys, and this message, it was forwarded to me by one of our admins, and the message reads like this. Hello my brother, how are you? I am a lady who started attending a Pentecostal church. This was after I had gotten so much disrespect from my mother-in-law, and after a few spiritual encounters that I was having in my dreams. And me and my husband, that was when we started going to this other Pentecostal church. And when my husband became so sick, we started to suspect that my mother-in-law, she was the one who was causing all of this, because when I entered into the marriage, it was because he had gotten divorced to his ex-wife. And the thing that was confusing a lot of people was that my mother-in-law, she was the one who was staying with her daughter-in-law at that time. And my mother-in-law, she knew that her own son's ex-wife, she used to bring boyfriends into the house whilst she was sleeping. So people were asking like a lot of questions, like how was it even possible that her own daughter-in-law can do such a thing without her knowledge? Even though she had found out that this was what her daughter-in-law was doing, she never told her son. And her excuse to all of this was that I didn't want to be the reason why my son will end up getting divorced from his wife, because tomorrow he was going to blame me and say that I was the one who made him to divorce his wife. So he then chose that it was far much better for him to remain quiet. She kept that secret. It was only after her daughter-in-law had fallen pregnant for one of her boyfriends that was when my husband to be found out, because he started suspecting that there was something that was going on, because the dates that he said he had slept with his wife, they were not combining with the dates when she said that she had fallen pregnant. Even when she gave birth, and this was 2 months earlier than when my husband to be expected that she was going to give birth. So this story, when it broke out, my husband and I, we had been working together for a very long time. We had been working in the same department, and he was a man that was in pain. And me, as a single mother, previously I had never had any feelings for him, but with time I just felt something for him. And we sat down as colleagues and we decided that this thing that we wanted to do, we had to do it in a very clever fashion. Otherwise, it was going to destroy us. If we wanted to get involved with each other, we had to treat each other with respect. Since we were stuck together, working in the same office anyway, we finally reached the decision and the conclusion that we were going to start dating. This was when the mother-in-law found out that I was now dating her son, and she didn't like me at all. Instead, calling her son and sitting with her son down, then she started going around the community. She then called the ex-wife as well, and she told her that I was the one who had made it possible for her marriage to break up. I was the office prostitute to her, who had stolen a husband. So my brother, when I was introduced to the family, I already had a bad name. Anyone that had heard about me, if they had heard about me from my mother-in-law's perspective, she had told them that I was a marriage breaker. Some people, they still do not even understand what made me and my husband to decide to get married. To my mother-in-law, she kept on cooking some stories, and she kept on saying that the reason as to why her daughter-in-law was cheating on her son, it was because she found out about the office relationship that was going on between me and her son. And she also said that she can never accept me as her daughter-in-law because I had rushed into marrying his son before I had gotten to know her son, before she had gotten the chance to know me better. But what she didn't know is that me and his son, we had known each other for years and years, since we were work colleagues. Each and every time that he would come to work feeling sad, I'll be the first one to realize, since I was working really close to him. Even as for me, when I went through my divorce, he was there for me, even though we were not in love with each other. And after he had gotten divorced from his wife, that was when we sat down and we decided that it was far much better for me to get married to him, since we had known each other for a very long time. So when I was introduced to the family, I was met with a lot of bad words, like toxic words that were coming from my mother-in-law's side. But still, because of the promises that my husband to be had given me, I kept on loving him, and I also fell pregnant for my husband. So when I fell pregnant for my husband, then my mother-in-law said that even if I was going to give birth to the child that I was carrying, she even suspected that this child that I was going to give birth to, it was not his son's child. Someone else had impregnated me. But my husband, because he loved me, he stood by me, because when we met, I was actually on a family planning, and this my mother-in-law didn't even know that me and her son, we had gone to the hospital together, and we had removed the implant that I had on my left arm. And each and every time when I was experiencing like toxic words from my mother-in-law, I will continue praying. My husband would also join me in prayer. Then when we realized that the spiritual attacks that we were now receiving, they were quite a lot, my husband then suggested that we were supposed to go and visit this other church. He had been told by one of his other friends about this church. That friend of his was going to that same church with his wife. So then when my husband said that we were supposed to go to church, there was something that like happened in the spiritual realm, because my mother-in-law, on that same night, whereby the next day we were supposed to go to church, she then got so angry with me. And on the day that we went to church, our car kept on breaking down. And this car, it broke down several times. And this car, it was not a second-hand car. This was still a brand new car. Me and my husband, after getting married to each other, we had gotten a brand new car. We wanted a bigger car since we were working at the same place. And now that we were starting our own family, and as a woman who already had 2 kids, I thought that it was far much better for us to get a bigger car. The car that we had gotten, it was a VW Amarok, and it was a brand new car that we got. When we were going to church, the car broke down twice, and when we came back from church, it broke down like each and every time that we would be waiting for the robots to go green, the car will just switch off. My husband, even though he didn't know anything about mechanics, if he would just open the hood of the car, him touching the battery, then the car will start again. The next Sunday, when we wanted to go to church, that was when I had a dream. This dream, it was quite strange, because I saw that my mother-in-law, she actually opened the gate to my yard. After she had opened the gate to my yard, then I saw her walking very fast. She had a net, you know, those nets that they use when they are trying to catch fish. She used that net, and I saw her covering the whole house with that net. It was a very big net. Then she came indoors and she waited for us in the kitchen, but she was hiding behind the fridge. By the time that me and my family had finished preparing for us to go to church, then I saw my mother-in-law. He was standing in front of me. So I kept on praying and praying. Then I saw that man who was our new pastor. He was also praying with us. Then my mother-in-law, she started screaming because there was something like a big knife that fell down from heaven. This big knife, it was covered in flames. So when she saw that there was a knife that had fallen down from heaven that was covered with flames, she then started running away, and I woke up. I then told my husband about the dream that I had, and they said that let us tell the pastor about this dream that you had. So when we went to church, then we told our pastor. This was after church. Then the pastor kept on telling us that we had to pray. This was the time when this pastor was not yet corrupt. The pastor was someone who preached the true word of God, and he had a vision. He was a visionary. But after he started getting a lot of rich people in that church, even my husband said that this pastor, the way that he is now preaching, it is very different from the way that he used to preach. When we were attending that church, it was now more like a business. There was always money that was overflowing into his church. Sometimes we would go to that pastor. If you would ask him for some prayers, then he will quickly pray for you. You know, when someone just wants to avoid you, he will just lay his hands on you. Then he will give you another excuse. He will tell you that he is rushing to his office, and he will say that if you want to see me, go and speak with my PA, because he now had a personal assistant who kept his diary. So when you will go to the PA, who was still his PA at that time, the lady will tell you that since the pastor is very busy, then if he is going to cancel a program to speak with you and pray for you, then you had to pay, like, to compensate him. So we were like paying a lot of money to see this pastor. These are the things that are still happening in his church, even though me and my husband, we are now just praying at home in the meantime. Then my mother-in-law, I think that she found an opportunity to bewitch me through that pastor. I know that people do not believe in witches, but I can guarantee you that witches are there and they are for real. What happened, my brother, is that one day I woke up. When I woke up, it was early in the morning, so I was not going to work on that day. My husband had already left for work because he had this other presentation that he was supposed to do there at work. So when I woke up after feeding my baby then fell asleep, and I left my baby. My baby was just sleeping in the bedroom. I then went outside and I started cleaning the yard, and I had even told my gardener not to come to work on that day. So I just wanted to look around whilst I was doing some simple cleaning in the yard. You know, as a mother, there is a time when you have left your baby inside the house, you just feel that something is wrong with your baby. That is what happened at that time. I felt like my stomach, there was this other gut feeling that was happening inside my stomach that was telling me that there was something that was wrong with my baby. So I left all the garden tools and I went indoors. When I went into my bedroom, I had placed my baby on top of the bed. What shocked me, Brother Nash, is that when I went into the bedroom, I saw that my baby was not on the bed. So I thought that maybe someone had stolen my baby. I ran around the house, but only to find out that the baby that I was looking for, the baby was there inside the wheelbarrow, because I had a wheelbarrow beside me when I was picking up the leaves that I was cleaning on the yard. I was placing them inside that wheelbarrow. So even up until today, I do not even understand, like, how can a baby that is still 9 months old can have the strength to get off a big bed, then start crawling out of the bedroom, then come and climb and just rest inside a wheelbarrow. This was like the very first spiritual encounter that I had, and this was like a physical thing, a spiritual encounter that happened in the physical realm. From there on, it was like the gates of hell had opened up. What would happen is that me and my husband, it used to happen somewhere around 8 p.m. when me and my husband would be watching TV. Then you could actually hear that on top of the roof there will be someone that will be walking. This person, when he or she will start walking, they will be walking very slowly. You could actually hear that the person might be dragging their feet. Then the person will start running on top of the roof. Sometimes you would actually feel as if there is someone that will be throwing stones on top of our roof. And when this thing started, we thought that maybe it was one of our neighbor's child, the one that was very naughty, because he used to do a lot of naughty stuff around the neighborhood, even though he was quite young. So we went and we spoke with our neighbor. We actually accused their son, because we honestly thought that he was the one, because in our street. He had broken several windows with his tennis ball. He had done a lot of naughty stuff. We went and we kept on speaking with them until the father said that I am going to try to make a plan. The next thing that he did is that he installed a CCTV system at his place. Then the next time around when we went to complain, and that was when he said that, oh, you think that it is my son that is throwing stones on top of your roof? Then I want you to show you that it is not my son. He said that he had been looking into his CCTV and he did not see that it was his son who had been naughty. He then said that we can go and watch everything on his computer. We went to the bedroom where they had that computer installed, and as we were looking at the computer, we then saw that there was a period on that CCTV, on the video that we were watching. We saw, Brother Nashi, a stone that was being lifted by an unseen hand. Actually, what had happened is that all of us, we had actually missed this part of that video. Then his wife was the one who pointed at him and he said, did you see that? Did you see that? Please rewind. And he then rewinded to that spot where the wife had seen that stone that was being lifted up from their yard and being thrown over the Jura hole. What happened, Brother Nashi, is that when he rewinded, we saw that there was a stone that was lifted from the side of the pavement just close to where the flower bed was. Like, you know, like when you have your flower beds, usually you can use stones so as to circle like the flower bed. So one of those stones was lifted up, and this stone, after it was lifted up, we saw it even going into the air. Then it disappeared because the CCTV camera could not look up into the sky. When he tried playing it again after he had said, did you see that? Did you see that? The stone was being lifted and there is no one who lifted that stone. When he tried playing it again, because he had paused it, then the computer, inside the computer, there was just a small sound that was more like a spark that happened inside the computer. He tried removing all the cables. That computer never switched on again. He tried everything. He even said that he was going to get one of the IT guys at his work. They took a hard look at the hard drive. They tried separating everything, tried to put the machine inside another hard drive, but it never worked. It never worked at all. It was just like burnt, and for no particular reason at all, that video clip just disappeared. We then went and we started speaking with our pastor, who was now corrupted, but we didn't know that our pastor was corrupted like that. We only heard the news that our pastor was even praying for traditional healers. Hey, Brother Nashi, the world that we are living in right now, our pastor was even receiving some money from traditional healers that used to come to his office so that he can pray for them. So our mother-in-law as well, she then started going to the pastor. This we heard from his former personal assistant, who had stopped going to that church. One day after I had told her everything that was happening in my family, she then said that if only I had access to the pastor's diary, you were going to be shocked with who comes to receive prayers from the pastor. That was when we knew that the pastor was even praying for some traditional healers who were traveling from very far places. She even said that my mother-in-law, she even had a schedule whereby she would come and receive some prayers from the same pastor. My mother-in-law, the same one who was bewitching me, was the one who was going to receive these prayers from my pastor, because my mother-in-law, she is a woman who has a lot of money. And when we were told this story, we then knew that we were finished and we didn't know what to do anymore. The next thing that happened, Brother Nashi, we then found out that my mother-in-law, he had visited another traditional healer and we didn't have anyone to protect us at all. The charms that she went and she took, those charms that she went to get from the traditional healer, ended up making my husband to go blind. My husband went blind for the whole year, feeling really discouraged, Brother Nashi. I also had to seek services of a traditional healer. My husband right now, he is okay, but there are some times when he's complains and says that when you will be looking at other things that are at a distance, he sees them as if they are blurry. His visions are no longer okay. But we got help from a traditional healer, and it pains me a lot because there was a time in my life when I saw that God was fighting in my corner. But then that pastor, he then got corrupted, and he then started letting us down, and we had nowhere to turn to, but we had to seek the services of a traditional healer because my husband had gone totally blind. My mother-in-law, she is still alive. She is now even attending that same church that me and her son, we used to attend, but we are no longer attending that church. She even have a position in that church. As for that pastor, I do not want to say a lot of things, but people are being lied to. But what pains me the most is that I had to go out there so as to seek the services of a traditional healer for the sake of my husband's health.